This is part of the secret to becoming an unforgettable B2B brand. In this video, we're going to be talking about the 8 elements of storytelling so you can learn how to invite your customers into an engaging story and grow your sales in the process. Let's dive in. What I'm about to share with you, you actually kind of already know. This framework is actually built off of what's called the hero's journey. It's a storytelling framework that is so popular, it's been around for hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of years. This framework is actually the bedrock of pretty much every movie you've ever seen. It chronicles a hero who leaves his homeland to go on a journey to conquer a dragon using some kind of tool that's provided to him by a guide that comes alongside of him. Sound familiar? The reason this has been around for so long is because we love it. We can't get enough of the hero's journey. So I'm going to break down for you the 8 elements of this framework so you can start telling this story from a business perspective to your potential clients. In a way, this will be like learning how to speak your client's language. Every good story has a beginning. It's got to start somewhere. Oftentimes, stories start with the hero in their comfort zone. It's where they live. It's Frodo in the Shire. It's Luke Skywalker on Tatooine. It's where things are safe, comfortable, and nothing really out of the ordinary is happening yet. So think about your ideal customer. Think about their starting point. Where are they right now? There might be a problem that they're struggling with that you're trying to solve that hasn't quite gotten to the breaking point yet, but nevertheless, they still feel it. It's very real to them. You gotta think about this part because this is where your client is coming from. This is their initial vantage point. This is where they've been. You're not joining them yet on the journey, but you at least need to know where they're coming from before they start working with you. And this is the point in the story where the plot really kicks into gear. We call this the catalyst. This is the I can't take this anymore moment. This is where your client realizes they need to change it. Things have to change if they're gonna get any better, if they're gonna solve their problem. Otherwise, there are serious consequences for them not changing. So think about Lord of the Rings. This is where Frodo realizes he's been entrusted with the ring from Bilbo, and he realizes this is a really serious thing, and that evil monsters are gonna be coming after him if he stays put. For your ideal customer, this is the breaking point. This is the problem that's gotten so bad that they just can't take it anymore. So think about the problem that you solve for your customers. What is it? Define it. It's gotta be serious enough that it would create a breaking point for them if they did nothing. This is the kind of thing that if they try to figure out this big, hairy problem themselves, it's gonna be disaster. They need to bring in outside help. Once the hero realizes that they need to make a change, they embark on an adventure. This is a journey to solve the problem. For Frodo in Lord of the Rings, this is where he leaves the Shire, and this is where he joins the Fellowship of the Ring to go destroy the ring in Mount Doom. In classic storytelling, we call this the call to adventure. This is the summons that brings the hero out of their comfort zone and onto a perilous journey towards the goal. So for your client, this is going to involve leaving their comfort zone, their familiar zone, and solve this problem. But if they don't know what they're doing, this can get really tricky for them. It could mean losing lots of time and lots of money. So at this point, they understand that they're being summoned on an adventure, and they know this adventure is big. This is bigger than them. This is something they can't do on their own. They need help. And this is where you come in. Yes, you are the guide. Every good story has a guide. Think about Lord of the Rings. There's Gandalf who helps out Frodo. You think of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. In the hero's journey framework, there's always a guide who comes in to assist the hero in solving the problem. And that's your role. I made a separate video about this, talking about your role, shifting from positioning yourself as the hero that saves the day for your clients to more as thinking about yourself as the guide who comes alongside of your client, the hero, and helping them on the journey. Your role is to help them get from point A to point B. Just like Gandalf, in a sense, helps Frodo get from out of the Shire and helps him get onto the path of heading towards Mount Doom. Every good guide is thinking about the destination for the person they're assisting, the hero. So think about your customers, think about the problem they're trying to solve. What does the end goal look like? And we'll get to that in a future element, but for right now, just think about that end goal that your client has their sights on, because your job is going to be to help them get there using your products or service, which is actually the next element, a sword. Yes, that's right. Every hero is equipped with something, some sort of tech, weapon, equipment, something to help him defeat the villain. So you think about Frodo, he's given Sting, the sword. You think about Luke Skywalker, who gets a lightsaber. It's usually something the hero does not possess, but needs in order to overcome the goal and defeat the villain. Your products and services are the sword, so to speak, that's going to help your customer conquer the villain. So look at your current offerings. Are you positioning them and talking about them like they're tools to help your hero? Or did you kind of Frankenstein some kind of offer and then you're just trying to shove it down people's throats and just hoping they'll buy it? That's not a tool. So think about your offer like this. My product or service will help you do X. X being their problem they're trying to solve, the goal they're trying to reach. So back to Frodo here. Sting, his weapon, is going to help him fight off orcs and bad guys so he can fulfill his mission of taking the ring to Mount Doom. Or think about Luke Skywalker, right? He's given a lightsaber so that he can learn how to become a Jedi so that he can fight the Empire and bring freedom to the galaxy. This is how you need to be talking about your products or services if you aren't already. They are tools that you are equipping the hero with, your customer, so that they can reach their goal, the destination, and conquer the villain, their problem. And speaking of villains, what's a good story without a good villain? Think about some of your favorite movies. There are some memorable villains out there. Because any good story writer knows that a villain can make or break a story. They can be really compelling and make you just want to hate them and want to see the hero defeat them, or they might just be really, well, lame. It makes it feel like this adventure the hero's on just isn't really that big of a deal. So think about Sauron in Lord of the Rings, right? Think about Darth Vader in Star Wars. Or if we're switching gears to comic books, think about the Joker in Batman. So in this framework, the villain represents the ultimate problem your customer is dealing with and they're trying to solve. Defeating the villain looks like solving the problem. So think about your customer. What problem are they trying to overcome? Or is it a sales problem? They're struggling with an empty pipeline and filling it? Is it a conversion problem? They got tons of leads they don't know what to do with, but none of them are really converting. You've got to really get descriptive with the villain, the problem that we're talking about here. Because if their problem isn't big and villain level and you don't know what really it is, if it's just some kind of vague thing, well, let's be honest, that doesn't really make a good villain in an actual story. Good villains have clear motivations. We as the audience know what they're trying to do and why. And we know why there's such a big deal in the story and why the hero, whoever it is, has to defeat them. Like, people are gonna die or the world's going to end if this villain is not defeated. So who is your customer's Joker? If they're Batman, who's their Joker? If they're Frodo, who's their Sauron? If they're Luke Skywalker, then who's their Darth Vader? The vast majority of the time, your customers already know who their villain is. They just need help defeating him. In any good versus evil story, we want to see the villain defeated. And that brings us to the next element, the victory. This is where your client's pain point is solved by your product or service. So you really want to picture this. What does it look like when the villain's defeated? How does that happen? Well, if a hero's fighting the dragon, then obviously the hero needs to slay the dragon with the weapon, right? That's the how. So for your customers, how will your product or service help them solve the problem? You can think about this in terms of like a process. Like, what's the steps that your client will go through in order to defeat the villain, so to speak, using your product or service? How's it going to work? What's it going to look like? What do they have to do to achieve victory? You might already have a defined process for working with your customers. You might just need to revisit it and change it maybe a little bit, or change how you talk about it. Are you talking about that in terms of leading your customers to the goal, to victory? Or is it maybe some kind of haphazard, undefined sort of thing that's kind of more confusing than anything else? With any good story, once the villain is defeated, we get to the part that's called the resolution. This is where things wind down, where the hero often returns to where they started, and things are different. They're different, and they know it. So in Lord of the Rings, think about how Frodo and his Hobbit friends come back to the Shire, and things just aren't the same. If we're talking about the movie, they try to go back to normal life the way things used to be before they left. It feels different because they know that they've changed. They've been on a huge adventure, seen a lot of stuff, almost died a couple times. They've changed. So define what the end looks like for your customer. Once they solve the problem, what will life look for them after that? How will things be? How will their business change? How will they change as people? This is the transformation part. This is the other side of working with you. It's communicating with your customers. Once you work with us, once you use our product or service, then here's what things are going to look like. The end of any good versus evil story is that peace is restored to the universe or the world or wherever it takes place, right? Every hero has some sort of motivating factor that's pushing them along to defeat the villain. They want the end. They want that peace at the end. They want to see their world transformed and changed so it's back to being good and right again. So you've got to think about how can you communicate that to your customers and frame within the context of them using your product or service. The language of story is your customer's natural language. You want to learn to speak it in your video marketing so that you can communicate with them better how you help them on their journey. Do that and you'll see much better results with your videos. And while we're on the topic of movies and storytelling, what is your absolute favorite movie? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to know. I hope you got value out of this video. Be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Hit that bell icon so you'll get notified about future content. I'm Evan with Staehle Media, and I'll see you in the next adventure.